Is the sun actually green? Sounds a little ridiculous, right? Because when we were kids, we all drew the sun yellow. Some people made it orange. But then scientists came to the table and said, everyone, it's a little more complicated than that. Because when we look at the sun from Earth, it appears yellowish. But when seen from space, it is actually much closer to white. And here is the funny part. When we scientifically split sunlight into its spectrum, the strongest region appears close to green-blue wavelengths. So simply saying the sun is yellow is too basic. Saying the sun is white is more accurate, but saying spectrally it peaks close to green sounds much cooler at the scientific gossip table. In short, the sun is not just a yellow ball. The sun is a giant orchestra of light, shouting all colors at the same time. And in that orchestra, the green note is playing pretty loudly. Sunlight is not made of just one color. It actually contains all the colors of visible light: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. We can see this most clearly in a rainbow. Raindrops split sunlight apart and show us, look, inside this white light, there are actually all these colors. The surface temperature of the sun is around 5,500 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, the sun emits light in a way that is quite similar to a physical model called blackbody radiation. In this model, the strongest part of the light is around 500 nanometers. That is close to the green-blue region of the visible spectrum. But there is one very important point here. The sun does not only emit green light, it emits red, it emits blue, it emits yellow, it emits violet. So the sun is not saying, I'm only green. It is more like saying, I am sending all the colors. You can let your eyes deal with the rest. And the human eye usually perceives this mixture of colors as white. So here is the question. If the sun is close to white, why does it look yellow to us? The answer is the atmosphere. Earth's atmosphere slightly messes with sunlight before it reaches our eyes. Especially shorter wavelength blue light is scattered more by molecules in the atmosphere. This is called Rayleigh scattering. To put it simply, blue light scatters in many directions through the atmosphere. That is why the sky looks blue. But when we look toward the sun itself, some of that blue light has already been scattered away, so the remaining light appears a little more yellowish to our eyes. At sunset, this effect becomes even stronger, because sunlight travels through a much longer path in the atmosphere. More blue light gets scattered away, and more red and orange tones are left behind. That is why sunsets look romantic. So actually, part of what we call romance is atmospheric scattering. Poetry, but physics. In short, if the sun looks yellow to us, it is not because the sun is truly yellow. It is because Earth's atmosphere adds a little filter effect to the light. Not an Instagram filter, a Rayleigh filter. Our eyes capture light, but vision actually happens in the brain. So the eye acts a bit like a camera, but the real director interpreting the image is the brain. And the human eye evolved to see only a very small part of the light the universe offers. We can detect visible light roughly between 380 and 700 nanometers. But beyond that, there is infrared, there is ultraviolet, there are radio waves, there are X-rays, there are gamma rays. So the universe's light menu is like a massive open buffet. But the human eye can only take one tiny plate from it. And color itself is not a fixed property simply sitting out there in the world. Color is created by wavelength, atmosphere, surfaces, the cone cells in our eyes, and the brain's interpretation. That is why the sun sometimes appears yellow to us. At sunset, it turns orange or red. From space, it is very close to white. And when we look at its spectrum, its energy peak is close to the green-blue region. So the sun is not a magical ball that changes color. What changes is often the medium the light passes through and the way we perceive it. This is where science comes in. Because science does not only ask, what do I see? It asks, what wavelength is this light? How did the atmosphere change it? How does my eye detect it? What color does my brain turn it into? And maybe the most beautiful lesson about the color of the sun is this. Our eyes show us the world, but they do not always show us the whole reality. So does everything we see with our eyes truly reflect reality? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button and share it with the people you care about, so the light of science can reach everyone.